What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Everything College Basketball Podcast, episode 209, Hoddy Toddy. I'm, of course, your host, Josh Burton, and joining me today on this fine Thursday afternoon, it's a duo again. It's not like we haven't done this a million times before, but I'm happy to have my friend Michael DeRosa with us. Coach can't make it today. He had prior obligations. We fully understand. He wants everybody to know he will be back Sunday for episode 210. But for this fine Thursday show, you've got myself and Michael. DeRosa, we have a lot to talk about. We've talked a lot about it. Honestly, hard at conference season. We'll have a lot of good games and stuff. But, man, just college basketball is the best, man. It's the best.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this. This was my favorite story. Did you see the kid running on the floor at Yeah. Love that. The sport's the best.
Dude, it's college basketball. And I like that they were very patient with him. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like if that was football or God forbid, soccer, they would have they didn't care if that kid was what'd you think, 6 years old or something?
Yeah, if that.
They would have yanked him. You know what I'm saying? They would have got him off the floor. But college basketball is the best, man. And again, would you be able to do that if you were at Cameron Indoor Stadium or Fog Allen? What game was it? Was it Florida? No, where was it?
It was a Big South game. I think it was Radford.
Okay, yeah, you can get away with that at Radford. I don't think you can get away with it at a bigger venue, but it's the beauty of the wild stuff that happens in the sport, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Obviously, I felt like today was apropos to title this Hoddy Toddy because we're going to talk about Ole Miss just continue to be completely honest, make you and I look like complete fools for doubting them because we've had our doubts, and we're going to talk a lot about the Ole Miss running Rebs, or I guess they're not the running Rebs anymore. They're just the Rebels. But as always, guys, we are live on the YouTube, on the Twitter, and the Facebook group. If you're joining along with us live here on this Thursday afternoon, stop by, drop your comments. Of course, please leave a like, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps the algorithms. It helps us continue to grow. And, man, he's always here and here first, our guy Connor McCabe. I know he has the YouTube notification set. So, Connor, what is up, my friend? We appreciate you being in number one all the time. But there was something I was going to bring up here right off the rip here, and I just lost it. Oh, you know what it was? And I wish Coach was here. We'll talk to him about this Sunday. You know how he talked about here recently about injuries, right? With Janai Broom, and we've had a couple big-time injuries. And then we go into the Iowa State game yesterday and find out Momcilovic is out. And then also this week, Malik Brown from Duke is out for an extended period of time. We've had Liam McNeely. Dude, I'm kind of with Coach now. I know injuries happen obviously all the time, but it does feel like some of the bigger names in the sport are getting hurt for kind of extended periods. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it is just that we're kind of focused on it once a Broom happens. Then you just keep thinking of oh, this guy's out, this guy's out, this guy's out. I don't know if it's any extreme due to past years, but I mean, it did, especially when a guy like Janai Broom gets hurt, it just kind of feels like it, you mean, that's the best player in the country.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to talk about Auburn, boy. We were, we wondered about how they would play. They're just that good. We're going to talk about their domination of Mississippi State and more. The other thing I was going to talk about real quick before we get into kind of reviewing games and stuff is I sent this to you guys in the group chat last night just because I was kind of doing some independent research and, just trying to find some stuff. And on KenPom, they have this beautiful breakdown of conference stats. So I was kind of doing some digging, and we all agree that the SEC is the best conference, bar none right now.
Yeah.
But if you look at some of the oddities of these stats, it's, we think about you look at Alabama and Kentucky and even Auburn to a degree, but some of these higher tempo, Florida, these teams that push the tempo, and you think of the league like that and a lot of 3-point shots. But if you look at tempos through every conference in college basketball right now, the SEC is only 8th. The MAC is setting the pace. The MAC plays at the fastest tempo in college basketball right now by 0.1% over the MEAC. The Big Ten actually ranks higher in tempo than the SEC. You look at 3-point percentage, the SEC is way towards the bottom. They're 26th. The conference as a whole shoots 31.7%. And then you look at home win-loss record, where coach, obviously talks about the importance of home wins. And if you could steal some road wins, then that's probably going to put you in a good spot to win the league. The SEC's home win-loss record after last night's games, the home team has only won 56% of the time.
Yeah.
It's 18-14. It's crazy. And then you look at the blowout percentage, 21.9% of games rounded up. It's 22% of games, seventh. And, yes, I'm looking at that. Seventh in the conferences for blowout percentage. And for blowouts, they consider anything like, I think, over 10 points or more is considered a blowout. So with all them stats, we know the league's good and the teams and the competition, but we're having more blowouts maybe than anticipated. And the road teams, for as hard as it is and as good as this league is, the road teams are winning a hell of a lot, almost 50-50 at this point.
Yeah, and I think one note that I'm surprised you didn't jump on that I think if I mention it, it will send you on a rant, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Free throw attempts compared to field goal attempts, the ratio there is fourth most in the country. I don't know what leagues are more. But also, I think one thing to note is SEC teams are great offensive rebounding teams. I feel like when we talk about Auburn, Florida, even Alabama is a really good offensive rebounding team. These teams crash the glass really well. And I think it gives you extra possessions, and more possessions equal more points. You want to have the ball more and get more shots up because then you'll score more.
Yeah. Well, to that offensive rebound percentage, the conference is second in all of the conference play. Actually, the best offensive rebounding league right now is who is that? Hold on. It's Southland. That almost looked like it said Southern Indiana for a second. The Southland's best offensive rebound percent. But no, the free throw rate, brother, 38.5 for a free throw rate is nuts. Because you compare that with the next highest power conference, you have to go all the way down to the Big Ten, who's at 33.1%. That is an insane amount. It goes to show what we've been saying, how the SEC, for whatever reason, is being officiated, a lot of free throw attempts. But, I just thought that was fun, kind of doing a conference breakdown. We do a lot of individual players and individual teams, but looking at the conference as a whole through the first handful of weeks now, I think it's fun and something we'll kind of keep an eye on. But let's stay in the SEC. Let's go to, I think, arguably the biggest result of this week so far, and that would be Ole Miss going into Alabama and getting a win. Now, I know when we talked about this on Sunday, I think we all picked Alabama to win because we thought the pace, Mark Sears has been playing well, and we wasn't totally bought in on Ole Miss. We know, I'll go back to my quote from Sunday to you guys, is I felt like they're kind of the Michigan State of the SEC, where they do a lot of stuff really well, but nothing incredible. They're just kind of good at everything, but not great. Man, they went and put the clamps on Alabama in Coleman Coliseum on a Tuesday night, and impressive win. Chris Beard, any doubts? I've said this before, and I'll say it again, Michael. Like him, love him, hate him. The one thing you have to admit is the dude can coach. This team plays hard. They defend their ass off, and they are a bear to go against right now.
Yeah, I don't really want to have to give this team credit, but because, I was wrong about it. I don't like admitting I was wrong. That's really the only reason. But absolutely, I was. In the first month of the season, after that, this is a tweet I'm stealing from my guy, Christian Ojakshi, and shout out ODJ Hoops. After the first month of the season, Ole Miss ranked 83rd in the country in defensive efficiency, which actually reminds me, I can just share my screen.
Go ahead.
Do that. Yeah. First month of the season, they were 83rd in the country in defensive efficiency per Bart Torvik. Since December 1st, the fourth best defense in the country. That's big time. That's just big time. I feel like that kind of says everything, but just looking at the KenPom page in conference play, I don't really want to share a KenPom solely because paid subscription and whatnot, but best defense in the country, best defense in the conference, excuse me. They're giving their adjusted defensive efficiency is 89.4, ranks first. Second is Tennessee at 96.6. That's points per 100 possessions. That's a pretty dang big difference. And teams are only shooting 20.7% from three against Ole Miss in conference play. Ole Miss is cleaning up on the defensive glass. They're doing really just everything. They're getting a ton of steals. Just defensively, this team's a complete menace to go up against. And Part of that could be, I mean, they went, some of the teams they've gone up against are Arkansas, LSU, Georgia's really good, but of those three, it's like you haven't played a Titan in the SEC. Then you played Alabama and you absolutely took it to them. Since the start of the season where they started pretty slow, their defense has really ramped up and have to give them credit.
Well, no, I completely agree. Especially the stat where they're the number one defense in the conference, and you're in the same league with Tennessee. And the numbers you gave were a pretty substantial margin in which they're the best defense as of now in the SEC. Dude, I want to talk individual play. We've been giving him his flowers, like we talked about the other day or last week when they went to Arkansas and beat Arkansas. Malik Dia, transfer from Belmont, 6'9", 250, bowling ball, non-athletic as far as like getting up. Like we made kind of fun of his jump shot, but he can make it from outside. Didn't hit a three in this game, tucked 3 attempts, but 23 points, 19 rebounds against Alabama on the road. This dude, for all those who always constantly wonder if like, well, can they translate from the mid-major to high major? We got to stop. Now, I know every case is different because not everybody can translate, but you look at the best teams in the league and just in the SEC, they have at least one or two or some of them multiple dudes who came from the mid-major ranks that are major contributors in the best conference college basketball. Malik Dia, 23 points, 19 rebounds against Alabama. And I know Alabama is not necessarily known for kind of keeping other teams off the glass, but that's still damn impressive when you look across and their front line is Clifford Mourier. They do have Grant Nelson for what it's worth, the size. Jaron Stevenson, I know, is not like an interior player per se. He kind of floats out in the wing, more versatile. But the point is they're much bigger than Ole Miss and much bigger than Malik Dia. And he puts up 23 and 19 on the road against a top 5 team in the country. That is huge performances. And we're talking about Ole Miss wins this game without Michael Brown-Jones. They dominated this game in a lot of aspects.
20 and 20 is 20 and 20. No matter where you get it, 20 and 20, let alone against Alabama, 20 and 20 is 20 and 20. To the point you mentioned about mid-major guys translating, it completely depends on the player. And Malik Dia was someone I didn't fully expect to translate because he was in the Missouri Valley, but he was kind of like the one athlete or the one physical presence on that Belmont team. Yeah, I mean, just over those last few games, he's averaging 21 points a game. It's pretty good. 19 plus 15 rebounds divided by 3. He's averaging over 10 boards a game as well. Shooting it over 50% from the field. He hit 2 threes in the 2 games before not making one against Alabama. But he's playing at a really, really high level. And the way he's been able to ramp up his play as the team has gotten better, even stepping in while Michael Brown-Jones has been hurt, that's a full credit to the kid. He is an absolute hooper. And he's a guy that was one of those guys that I didn't really expect to do much. He's taken a huge step up and just has been, I mean, really excellent for this team in, I mean, their last 3 games in SEC play. He's gotten better as the games have gotten tougher, which I think is a full testament to the kid.
I mean, also in Ole Miss, I mean, they did have balanced scoring, right? 5 dudes in double figures, but you also win by 10 on the road and against a top 5 opponent with Dre Davis, who's been really good for him this year. 25 minutes, 2 points. He did get 3 steals, so he continued to contribute on the defensive end somewhat. But some of the other dudes that they rely on necessarily didn't step up. But it's kind of the what's that saying? The whole is the sum of the parts are greater than the whole, or whatever that saying is. Like that's kind of Ole Miss here, and they wear you down with physicality. They wear you down defensively, and they can kind of spread the love around. Now, if you get Malik Dia really popping off, you get Michael Brown-Jones back. Like, dude, maybe we were wrong on Ole Miss. Like I think we were just so we got kind of burned with them last year. Remember, they started 15-0 or whatever, and then SEC play hit, and they kind of they tanked really bad. And I think maybe we've still had some hangover from that. And they don't, like I said, they don't do anything like super sexy. They're not scoring 100 points normally, and they're just kind of there. But this team looks like they're built for a huge run, like a real contender. Like, I'll ask you, after what you see now, them going on the road and beating Alabama, what we've seen, they should have beat Purdue earlier in the year, and they're undefeated to start SEC play. Do you think Ole Miss has what it takes to win this brutal league that we've talked about for a long time now?
To your point of how Ole Miss won this game, you looked at some guys who didn't score very well. It's the defense. They were the only team, I believe. I'm going back. I'm just trying to do the math in my head, but I believe they're the only team to hold Alabama this season below 1 point per possession, and they held them to 0.84 points per possession. That is elite defense, and part of it is Alabama wasn't hitting shots. There's a reason they were defended well, and 21 turnovers for Alabama. That's not nothing. That's a lot. I mean, forcing an Alabama team that doesn't really turn the ball over a ton, like they're middle of the road in turnover rate, forcing them to 21 turnovers on 27% of the touches, I think is ridiculous. I still have questions on them winning the SEC. I think this league is so good. And obviously, how long is Jedi Broom out for? We don't have a concrete answer. How long? I mean, I still think Tennessee is going to beat them. I still think Florida is still the better team. But I think they're in that conversation. And also another question I have will be, are they really going to hold teams to shooting 20% from three in SEC play? I don't think they can do that. I mean, maybe they don't get to like 40%. Obviously, I don't think like teams will shoot amazing against them or even good against them. But 20% is such a low number that it's like I just think at some point someone's going to hit some shots and bump that number up at least a little bit.
No, I completely agree with that. Like 20% is that, especially when you kind of look at it, there's a lot of really good shooting teams that could have a night, or even play a team that's not a great shooting team that we're going to talk about a game here later that they're not a great shooting team, but on your given night, you can make 7 or 8 threes. So, and then the turnover thing with 21 turnovers, we talked about one of the keys. Ole Miss third in the country and not turning the ball over, and 11th in turning the other team over. I mean, they just get after you defensively. Everything begins with that defense and the physicality. And if you're not ready for it, then they're going to eat you up, it looks like now. And I think we have to take Ole Miss. I agree with everything you said, though. Like, I don't think they're going to win this league, but I think they put themselves in a prime spot to be there, to be like a top 4 in this league now, because that defense should travel every night. On Alabama, real quick, I know we've gave a lot of love to Ole Miss, which we should. Mark Sears, 11 points on 2 of 8 shooting. 6 of the 11 came from the free throw line. Grant Nelson, 9 points, 8 rebounds. They were led by Aiden Holloway off the bench with 15. Alabama, another poor 3-point shooting night, 5 of 20. That continues their streak. They're only shooting, 32% on the year as a whole. I don't think it's anything to worry about, but you definitely, it's going to put yourself, I've seen some Alabama people talk about like, hey, you want to win the league, you can't lose home games like this, which I think is true for the most part. But like, I'm going to pick on like a guy like Grant Nelson for a minute. Like he gave a good performance, 9 points, 8 rebounds. He had 5 turnovers. I feel like the blueprint's there. If he has to match up with a Malik Dia who's physically stronger than him, he's in a world of trouble, I think, in a lot of games like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, I think you covered it all there.
Yeah, I think he's in a world of trouble in games like that. So we'll see. Alabama, obviously in this league every night, you're gonna have big ones. Ole Miss, though, 4-0. Their next couple at or Mississippi State on Saturday for the basketball version of the Egg Bowl, round 1. Then they're back home next Wednesday against Texas A&M. Then next Saturday, the 25th, you're at Missouri is your next 3. So it does not get easier from here. Alabama's got Kentucky on Saturday. We're going to preview that here in just a bit later on in the show. Speaking of the Cats, let's talk about Kentucky here. We previewed this one. We weren't for sure if Wade Taylor, I think the consensus was if Wade Taylor's 4th place, A&M we thought would win this game in Rupp Arena. If he doesn't, Kentucky wins. Lo and behold, Wade Taylor 4th does not play. Kentucky wins 81-69. Another really good win. How about this? Kentucky is 5-0 against AP top 15 teams this year. Mark Pope just, for whatever reason, his team, if they have a ranking next to their number, Kentucky's going to win that game so far this year. It's the kind of teams that you're expecting them to beat is the ones that are having problems with. But another good Jackson Robinson game. He followed up that 27 points on the road on Saturday against Mississippi State. Missed his first 4 shots in this game. Did not get discouraged. Kept firing. Ends up with a team high and a game high 22 points. 5 of 13 from the 3-point line. 3 of 4 from inside the 3-point line. Made his only free throw. He pitched in 8 rebounds, which I think is massive too, because we're talking about an A&M team that is the best offensive rebounding team in college basketball. Kentucky out-rebounds A&M keeps them off the glass for the most part. And a large part of that was because the guards like Jackson Robinson, Otega-Owe, Lamont Butler decided to box out, come down and help and get the rebounds. And for Jackson to follow up 27 with 22 and 8, is he starting to turn the corner now? Because if so, I think we agree this is the version of Kentucky that could be really special.
Yeah, I think the rebounding is the big note. I don't really have too much to add to what you said on this game, aside from the rebounding factor. I mean, A&M only got 11 offensive rebounds in this game. Kentucky had 12. They got more offensive rebounds. They were the better offensive rebounding team than the best offensive rebounding team in the country. That's going to win you some games. See 56 free throw attempts. So it's really hard to take much more away than that. And you mentioned the Jackson Robinson take. And yeah, Lamont Butler only scored from the free throw line, but he just found a way to be effective in this game. 7 assists, did have 6 turnovers, but A&M is a team that does force quite a few turnovers. But 3 steals.
In all fairness, I think probably half of those, if you watch the game, were he took a beating. Like there was a couple where he was attacking the rim and like his footing gave out and he like would travel with the ball because, slip and fall. Mm-hmm. So I think the turnover numbers are a tad bit high on those just because like weird things like that. He'd hit a wet spot on the floor and fall down, but go ahead.
Yeah. I don't really have too much more to add on what you said. And then also Otega-Owe had, I believe, the dunk of the year in this game.
Ooh, man.
Actually, that one of the Horizon League kids had a really cool dunk, so it might have been that kid. But Otega's, of the calendar year from January to whatever, I think Otega-Owe had.
Yeah, the last 15 days or whatever. Yeah. I mean, he's been trying that, and if you remember Florida, he got blocked twice trying to go do it. Georgia, whoever it was, Asa Newell, whoever, Santos Surreal, I think it was, blocked him. But he kept trying, and he finally posted. I mean, he hammered on Pharrell Payne. Like, he brought the pain to Pharrell Payne on that one. Kentucky, again, they were like one of the first 11 from 3. Ends up kind of evening out, going 9 of 27. But the thing I love is that ever since Georgia, especially these last 2, they've decided, all right, we've got out toughed in some of these games. We're going to battle. I think it's evident in holding A&M to 69 and winning the rebounding battle. If they could figure out this whole toughness thing for good, then I think that goes a long way and feeling even better about them making a real push for the SEC title. Travis Perry hits 2 big threes. When Lamont Butler took a beating in this game. He got kicked in the face. He fell down, hurt his shoulder. Like he was taking a beating in this game. Zerk Phelps, 21 for A&M. We knew he had to do something with Wade Taylor out, and he was capable, but it wasn't enough. Not a bad loss for A&M by any means, especially without your best player. But you look at their upcoming schedule, and we don't know the status of Wade Taylor. They play LSU at home. You would think that's a win. Then they got to go on the road for a couple. Ole Miss, Texas. Let's put it this way. If they don't get Wade Taylor back, this part of the schedule, with the exception of Ole Miss on the road and maybe Texas, like it's manageable for them, but very losable too. So if you're A&M, how cautious are you with Wade Taylor? How fast are you rushing back? Like, because you're trying to compete for an SEC title too, or a top 4 seed in this.
Yeah, it depends on the injury, and I just don't have any information on it, so there isn't really much more I can add. They've given us literally nothing. He's just out with undisclosed, and it comes out like 2-3 hours before the game, and it's like, oh, okay. So I couldn't tell you, but just hope he recovers quickly. But one quick note I actually had on looking at the box score again. A&M made 23 field goals. 8 of them were from Zerk Phelps, blah, 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 blah. 5 from Pharrell Payne. 4 assists in this game. 4. That's not going to cut it. You got to move the ball better.
Yeah. I think a lot of it too, if you watched, it was just they got downhill. Like when they were getting points, it was a lot of individual drives trying to finish at the rim. But 4 assists, you got to have more move the ball. I just don't think their offense is conducive, especially without Wade Taylor. It's even with Wade Taylor, if we're being honest, how many times does he get on a heater? But that's because he's pull up off 2 dribbles and getting his own. So I just don't think they're a high assist percentage team. But I think A&M obviously will be all right, especially without your best player. That's another good win for Kentucky. We'll see if the momentum continues, because it's just SEC. You've got to continue to put these runs together. Real quick, The game wasn't much to talk about in itself, but I want to talk about Auburn just real quick. Number 1 team in the country. We talked about losing Janai Broome. Would this be the big challenge? I thought Mississippi State would go down there because I know Mississippi State's a good team. Without Janai Broome, I thought their physicality would win out and they would go and upset Auburn on the road, and I was completely wrong. Like this Auburn team with Janai Broome, without Janai Broome, they're going to do Auburn things this year. I mean, 20 from Chad Baker-Mazara, who I said he would either get you 20 or he's going to shoot you out of the game. He got him 20. Chaney Johnson gives him 17. Well balanced up and down the floor. 10 of 24 from the three-point line. Like, dude, is this like the biggest shot to everybody in college basketball who kind of were licking their chops a little bit thinking, yeah, especially in this league, thinking, all right, we can knock Auburn off, knock them down a peg. You know, they're without their best player, and they just sent one hell of a message on Tuesday night.
100%. I mean, you mentioned it. They sent a hell of a message. And to your point earlier, you made way earlier on Malik Dia, mid-major guys transferring up, whatever. That's Auburn's like almost entire team. I mean, Chaney Johnson's a D2 transfer, if I remember correctly. Chad Baker-Mazara is a JUCO transfer. Obviously, Janai Broome transferred over from Morehead State. We could go on and on and on and on. But yeah, they just find guys that fit the way they want to play. It translates to this level well. And I really think the difference in this game was just they're just the positional size. Mississippi State's a really small team. Like they want to run a lot of 3 guard actions. Kugel, Hubbard, some names are slipping my mind at the time, but they want to run a lot of like 3 guard stuff. And that's really tough to do on a team like Auburn. Like if Chad Baker-Mazara, I mean, you're running Chad Baker-Mazara, Dylan Caldwell, Chaney Johnson. Those are big, long, physical athletes that it's just going to be really tough to get going. And even Cam Matthews, I don't think it's like he plays a forward, but he's not particularly big, like height wise. He's big, like physical wise. And like he moves around and got it twisted, but like he's not the tallest guy out there. I just think it was a really bad matchup for Mississippi State. But yeah, this is a statement and a half from Auburn. Like this team is still legit and a half. And it's going to take, even without Janai Broome, it's going to take a damn good effort to knock this Auburn team off. And I think it's going to be an interesting test this weekend.
Yeah, I think if you're Bruce Pearl, dude, you're seeing the South Park meme where the Randy's got his big old balls in like the wheelbarrow. You know what I'm saying? You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's why if I'm Bruce Pearl, I'm doing that. Because everybody doubted us, like, oh, well, maybe you get beat without Janai Broome, the national player. Man, they beat up a really good Mississippi State team, held them to 3 of 4 or 24 from the three-point line. I mean, you had 10 blocks in this game without your national player of the year. I mean, Chaney Johnson gave you 17, 8 rebounds, 4 blocks. You win by 22, dude. If I'm Bruce Pearl, I'm just like, I've got a squad. Just keep them from self-destructing, keep them healthy. This team's the real deal, the real damn deal. Let's talk about Iowa State. Great game, not only in the Big 12, but nationally yesterday. You know, it was a top 10 matchup. We have Kansas came into this week in the ECB poll 10th. Iowa State was up to 2nd with the Tennessee loss. And Iowa State, man, we talk about how much we love this team because of their offensive flow. We talk about in years past, they've been great defensively, but it's the offense and the dudes who can make plays. And they had dudes make plays last night. Iowa State protects home court at Hilton Coliseum, beats Kansas 74-57 in a really big, not only top 10, but like I said, a Big 12 title tilt kind of game. They get 25 from Curtis Jones. And keep in mind, it was just 24 hours previous that we found out Momcilovic had an injury that he was out. So this could have went badly for them and a team that's not necessarily the deepest. Dude, Curtis Jones go from 6th man to sliding in starting rotation. He goes 5 of 6 from the 3-point line, drops 25. And Iowa State just, I won't say suffocated, but it felt like they were in control the whole entire game. And Kansas never really had a chance. And we've talked about this, dude. I am so worried about Kansas's offense that I am a seller of the Jayhawks in January. Now, I may look stupid in March and change my opinion, but to me, this looks like kind of the same Kansas team that we saw last year that really struggled to score the ball.
Yeah, I'm with you as of now, just because they don't get to the free throw line particularly well and they don't shoot threes particularly well. That I feel like you kind of have to do one or the other, and this team doesn't really do either, that they just kind of want to play little soft around the rim. And I'm not a huge believer in that team. I think they'll obviously get better as season goes on, and it's Bill Self. Like, you don't really want to question Bill Self. If you're questioning Bill Self, you're usually long-term, you're probably losing. But this Iowa State team, I think, is really special. You mentioned Curtis Jones went from the best 6-man in the country. I don't really think that was all that debatable, frankly, to like he steps in the starting lineup and he's the same dude. He's just the same dude. It wasn't changing anything. He's amazing. And then you look at the other guards, Taman Lipsey and Keyshawn Gilbert. Those guys just know how to play together, man. The way they controlled that game was really impressive. They're just so smooth. And Josh Jefferson, I really like his game. Physical big man. Deshaun Jackson, same thing. They got a squad, man. That is, I think it's pretty clearly that they're the best non-SEC team. And frankly, they could go into the SEC and win a lot of games. And Hilton Magic is for real. That place was rocking. I had that game on my second screen because I was watching the Butler game. I tell you right now, I was paying much more attention to that game, and that game had the sound on, and the Butler game didn't very quickly. That game was fun, and Iowa State is just really damn good.
Especially when they have an Iowa State team that is good. I mean, it always makes it more fun to go to these games. But where would you, just kind of rough, I know it's hard to sit here on the fly, but I've been thinking about this today. Hilton Coliseum, especially, like I said, when they have a fun team and they pack that building and it gets loud, they kind of right on top of you. Is that a top 5 venue in college basketball? Like home court?
When it's like in like a spot like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. Like big games like that, when they have a good team, I think it's kind of easy top 5. Like you'd put Cameron, you would put Fog Allen, of course, was number 1, I think. I think you could put Hilton in the top 5 and nights like last night.
I think you could put Hilton top 3, those 3.
Yeah, I would agree.
Assembly Hall up there when they're good.
Assembly Hall definitely when they're good. Dude, I've been to Mackey. Like with me, Peyton and I a couple years ago went to Mackey when them with Purdue and Marquette. Mackey is underrated. That place gets nuts. Student section. So that's a really good conversation maybe for a summer show. But I was just kind of curious because Hilton, like you said, Hilton was the real deal last night. Let's give some love to some of our commenters. We shout out Connor McCabe. Our guy Johnny. We are going to talk about the Hoosiers and kind of that downfall in just a minute. But what's up, my guy? Trevor couldn't be on the show today, but he is checking in. He said, need the rest of the college basketball stuff would be interesting. We've had an SEC-related title for weeks. Look, I get it, but we did this a lot with the Big 12 the last couple of years. When Houston and Kansas, and it's just the way it is. Hey, shout out our guy from Southeastern 16, Max Barr. Been on the show numerous times. Hopping in the chat today. What is up, Max? We appreciate the hell out of you. Like I said, we are live, so if you're following along with us, don't be afraid. Leave a comment below, and we will put that on the screen. We'll get to it. We appreciate everybody checking in. Also, leave a like, follow, all that fun stuff. It really helps us out. I agree with everything you said. Like, we've talked already this year about the importance of Josh Jefferson and what he gives his team, and the impact already is kind of that versatile, athletic big man inside that can really match up. Honestly, plays bigger than what his size is. And like he's 6'9", 240, but it feels like when he has to play against a Hunter Dickinson and he's given up those, 5-6 inches in height, it doesn't necessarily feel like it because he's so strong and positionally athletic. He can work his way around. It feels like he's bigger than 6'9", than what he's listed. We know how great Iowa State is. Kansas, 5 of 16 from the three-point line. They only shot 44% from inside the arc. 4 of 11 from the free throw line. And Johnny, who I just shouted out, was talking about today because he was watching this game. He brought up a good point. Hunter Dickinson here lately looks like either he's distracted or some don't seem right with him. 6 points, 8 rebounds. And these are the games that you would normally hear in the last couple of years get, 25 and 15 from him?
You get angry, Hunter Dickinson.
Yes. Even like Johnny brought up a good point. There was one time the ball got rotated to him at the top of the key, wide open 3, and he passed it up. Hunter Dickinson normally takes those shots. So I don't know. I don't know if he's disinterested, if he's frustrated. I don't know, but he does not look right. And I think it is really hurting Kansas's offense because if you're relying on DeJuan Harris to score the ball for you, great defender, great facilitator, not a scorer. Zeke Mayo gave him 17, the only dude in double figures, but he's so up and down. They're not getting anything out of AJ Stewart. They're not getting anything out of David Coy. Our guy, Marquise Passmore, is only a freshman, so you don't expect a lot from him this year. It's just 57 against Iowa State. So 54 the other day against Cincinnati. 74 against Arizona State. I mean, offensive rating, they're 45th. Like, I can't put my finger on it. 33% from three overall. Let me see what they are in conference play here real quick. They're shooting 27.3% in conference play from three. Can you figure out what the hell? Is it just as much as Hunter Dickinson's not been Hunter Dickinson and it's kind of slowing their offense up, or guards not stepping up? Because I think until they fix that, I can't buy Kansas.
And some of the secondary options, like AJ Storr is not really creating that well. He very clearly was just kind of uplifted by that Wisconsin system at this point. Like, he just doesn't fit what they're doing. Ryland Griffin hasn't stepped up. Zeke Mayo has been, the best of those three.
Up and down, though. Even still up and down.
Yeah,
he's been
even so.
He's
like a fine secondary option, but when you're counting on him to be your main guard, that's a problem. And another, again, I brought this up earlier, but I didn't know the number was this extreme. Excuse me. Kansas is the worst team in the country at getting to the free throw line. They have the lowest free throw rate in the country. They get to the free throw line on about 20% of their free throw attempts.
It's worse
they
in
are
conference
the worst
play.
team in the country getting to the line. Let me say that again. Worst in the country.
Yeah. It's worse than Big 12 play right now. 18%.
Oh my God, yeah. Like, they're just, I have to watch some of their games more closely to see if they're just playing soft and just are kind of afraid of contact or what. But when your offense is stalled, when you're not able to get a bucket, when you're just going through one of those droughts, getting to the free throw line just helps you so much. It helps you kind of calm the game down, reset, 2 free bunnies, just see the ball go through the hoop. They're not getting that at all.
No. And that's a great point about free throw rate and everything. But then you look at Kansas, number 1 in the conference in most defensive metrics. Number 1 in defensive efficiency, number 1 in effective field goal percentage defense, number 1 at 2-point percentage defense.
So much of that, though, because we're only like 5 games in, so much of that comes from playing Cincinnati and Cincinnati putting up 40.
Good point.
If we want to talk about a team, we'll talk about IU later. We want to talk about another team that has just been an absolute letdown, Cincinnati. That team cannot score for shit. They're one of the worst offenses in the country. Just watching them. It is ugly. Don't do it if you don't have to.
Yeah, Cincinnati dead last in the Big 12 in offensive efficiency right now. And then look at the Big 12 standings just real quick before we move on. If Kansas wants to get back on the high horse of being the kings of the Big 12, you've buried yourself in a hole already, because Houston, Iowa State, Arizona already, the 3 of them 5-0. Then you got a gag of teams at 3-2, which include Kansas, Texas Tech, Baylor, West Virginia, and then UCF is up there. We know the Big 12. Even though it's not number 1 like it has been here recently, it's still number 2 or 3, depending on how you look at it. Really good conference. The road to hoe, if Kansas, they're going to not only have to try to start winning a bunch of games and hopefully scoring more, but they're going to need some help along the way at this point. They're already 2 games back, and I don't know, man. We'll see if Kansas finishes can get back into the mix, or if they finish outside the top 4. I think until they get that offense fixed, it's more likely that they finish outside the top 4 in the Big 12. I know it's crazy to say.
It does. But let's look at the schedule they played. West Virginia at home. West Virginia's good, but they're not one of the best 5 best teams.
Shouldn't lose at Fog. You shouldn't lose with the Fog like that.
Arizona State, they beat Cincinnati, who, just got their first conference win yesterday, and they beat UCF. Those are 3 games that, frankly, at this stretch, you're okay losing the Iowa State game, but if you really want to be in league winning conversation, you should be 4-1 playing some of the easiest teams in the country. Or easiest teams in your conference, excuse me. Definitely not easiest teams in the country. That was a bad mistake.
That was a Freudian slip there, my friend.
Yeah, that's tough. I love the West Virginia team too. They're damn good.
I do too, especially when they get Tucker DeVries healthy and rolling. Javon Small, I really do too. But great win for Iowa State. They are the real deal. I really hope that the basketball gods give us, whether it's Final Four or whatever, I hope we get them in Auburn in a rematch.
Yeah.
I want to see that game part 2. I think that would be a lot of fun. Hell, it might be a national championship game at this rate. We'll see.
They are the 2 best teams in the country.
I would agree with that. Duke could make an argument because the way they're playing right now, but their conference is not near as good as the other 2 right now. So a great win for Iowa State. Kansas, it's not a bad loss by any means, but it doesn't look good because your offense is struggling so bad. Got to fix that. Just touch on this real quick. I was wrong about Georgia last night. I thought that they had momentum, obviously. I thought their defense and style would translate and match up with Tennessee, and it did for 20 minutes. Tennessee turned on the Jets, ends up blowing Georgia out. Did you learn anything from this game? Like, obviously not a bad loss for Georgia, right? They probably didn't want to get blown out at the end after being up at halftime. But did you learn anything about Georgia? And then anything about Tennessee in this game?
I don't think there was too much to take from Georgia aside from, I mean, there were a couple stretches where they just kept turning and turning and turning the ball over. I don't know how much of that is Georgia not having like amazing ball handlers, because I think their ball handlers have been solid, frankly, all season long up until this game, and a lot on Tennessee. But I think more from the Tennessee side, they found a way to win a game where Chaz Lanier was not playing very well. Like at one point, I believe he was like 1 of 12 from the field, 1 of 13. I'm trying to pull it up. Let me see. Yeah, he closed 2 of 16. Like, he wasn't playing well at all, but they found a way. Zakai Ziegler had 6 steals. He was just harassing the backcourt. 19 turnovers for this Georgia team. Dakota LeFew had 6 of them. Silas Demery 3. But, I mean, I think this says more about Tennessee. Their defense was just suffocating. They turned Georgia over. They got 13 more shot attempts. Like, they just found a way to win this game. I think it says a lot about how good this Tennessee team is. And I still don't think there's any reason that this is the game where you sell on Georgia. If you're looking at this Georgia team and like, I don't know if they're a top 20, if that's your thought, this isn't the game where you're going to confirm that. This is not the spot. You're going at Tennessee, who people had as the best team in the country 2 weeks ago.
And you want to know what their reward is? They get Auburn. They get Auburn at home on Saturday. I still think Georgia's an NCAA tournament team, but
yeah,
Tennessee,
definitely.
Tennessee showed their resolve after not, getting blown out by Florida, not looking great on the road at Texas, struggling in the first 20, but at home, the veterans stepped up. So Tennessee keeps themselves early in the mix for the SEC. You're looking at Auburn and Ole Miss 4-0, and then a handful of teams, Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, Missouri, all 3-1 in conference. So it's going to be a fun race all throughout. Let's get to this. You know what? Let's shout out our sponsor, because I want to talk about Indiana on the other side of this. We would be remiss if we did not shout out our good friends and sponsors this year over at Dubby Energy. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash, jitters, or angst like other energy drinks. They have no maltodextrin fillers and do not use artificial dyes. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams caffeine. Their product is made in the USA in an FDA-inspected facility that strictly adheres to GMP manufacturing guidelines. And if you go to www.dubby.gg, place yourself an order, and at checkout, use promo code ECB10 that you see right here on the screen. You will get 10% off your order. It helps us. It helps out. I promise you, I've done the taste test. Really good stuff. Go get yourself some Dubby Energy. Get yourself one of those shaker tumblers that are really cool too. Use the promo code, get 10% off. We would appreciate it, and I know they will as well. Let's talk about Indiana. Next couple minutes, let's talk about them, because we've been asked to. It's kind of national news. Let's talk about them just real quick. I know Trevor said, he swore him off to Iowa. I'm the idiot that picked them against Illinois. I look like a damn fool for picking them. I guess in my mind, I thought most teams that have a spine and a backbone would take a 25-point ass whipping and bounce back. They decided that they were not going to do that, because they followed up a 25-point ass whipping with a 25-point ass whipping at home, one of the largest home defeats in Assembly Hall history for the Hoosiers. Illinois ran through them, put up 60 in the first half. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And then you have all this. You have Omar Ballo starting a fight. You have the clip of him on a loose ball, literally just watching Illinois save the ball and get a layup. And then
that clip was one of the most embarrassing things I've seen all season.
Shout out our friend Greg Waddell from Sleepers Media for doing the clip there on it and making it go viral. And then you have after the game. During the game, you have the student section chanting "Fire Woodson." You have local news station here, I think it was Channel 8, Wish TV, caught up with students literally leaving at halftime Assembly Hall, basically saying, "Screw this, we're not doing this no more." Student section was empty for pretty much the whole second half. And then you have Mike Woodson's comments after the game when asked about it, saying, "Well, I hope support still comes." And Luke Goody going after Dan Dockage. It is a mess in Bloomington. It is a mess for a team that had high NIL, that bought on paper what should be a good team, but it's all went to hell in the handbasket. This team, as soon as they get down double digits, they quit. They do not fight and get back into games. And it's embarrassing all the way through. I want to hear your thoughts on it because it's been national news here.
I mean, Trevor, if you go ahead.
No, you guys good. I'm setting things up. I just want to say hello. Hanging out in an arena on a Thursday night at CAA Hoops, as you guys know. I just wanted to come say what's up and checking it out.
What's up? It's good to have you, man.
Yeah, you might not be able to hear me great, but it's loud. I'm excited to see Charleston tonight. Ante Bergevich, you change over from Pat Kelsey and you get a coach that's hadn't coached in 3 years, and they're the best team in the league again. What can you say?
Yeah.
So, super excited.
You'll get to see one of the better mid-major players in college basketball, so that's cool.
I'd argue the best right about now, man. Yeah. He got better as a passer. He got better as a scorer. I mean, we saw that shot against FAU. That doesn't just happen if you haven't gotten better. And I've talked to some folks the last couple of days, and he's the most engaged he's ever been. He's definitely one of those players that I think just fed into the fact that he was going to play more. Coach Mack said that before the season, he was going to play more. And, I'm excited to talk to him. He's going to be he's an incredible kid, through and through, incredible guy from when I've talked to him before. And I know Coach Mack loves him, and I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, I would say him or Bennett Sturts from Drake. That would be probably the biggest two for that competition. So that would be a lot of fun. Yep. We were just going in on Indiana because it's been national news. We were asked to talk about it. It's a mess. It's worse. Take all the stuff we've talked about on the floor. And I just went over the whole incident that's been happening here lately. It is embarrassing. If you wear the IU jersey, it's embarrassing. It's it's a mess. It's a disaster right now. And I was just wanting to get your guys' thoughts on it.
One, they didn't fix their shooting problem whatsoever entering the year. They didn't really even try. They added Goody. First of all, on Goody, I will never blame anyone for going at Dan Dockich on the internet. He's just an asshole. So yell at him all you want, fine by me. But this play, I don't know if I want to risk getting copyright claimed, but if I'm doing it for anything, how little effort Oumar Ballo put into this play, particularly towards the end. Let me make sure this is muted so I can speak as the video plays. You see the transition opportunity. They make a bad pass, but then it's like, all right, everybody's like slowly walking back. Just watch Ballo here. I'm going to go full screen. Watch Ballo here. Just nothing. Makes a little play on the loose ball, then just kind of stands there and Gibbs, I believe that's Gibbs Longhorn, just walk to the rim. It was not Gibbs Longhorn, it was someone different, but
keep in mind, you're paying this dude, what, $2 million or whatever it was, 1.2 million, whatever the number, to do that.
Fucking care. A play like that tells you the season's over. It's done. Like
he's out of okay. I will say this is not my saying because I don't know his weight. This is what people within the program that I've seen tweets have said about him. So I want to clarify that before it's like slander. They said the rumor is he's out of shape. You've heard stories about Ballo going to the bars the night before games. The dude's there for a paycheck, probably for the honeys, because Bloomington and Indiana's campus has really good looking girls and women down there. And he's there just to kind of burn off his final year of college basketball. The effort he puts in, or lack of effort, shows that he does not give a single shit if they win or lose. And it's embarrassing.
And you, straight up as a coach, given this NIL budget, you can't recruit a kid who doesn't give a shit. You can't.
All I'm going to say, for the sake of where I am right now and not having any notes in front of me to go off the game, unfortunately, but I'm just going to call back to Sunday in my rant. And I said, I just laid out so many things with Ballo and that one game specifically, the Iowa game. Obviously, Iowa game planned him really, really well, but that doesn't just happen once. This has happened numerous times, and I'm not putting all the blame on Ballo. It definitely seems like I am every time I'm on here talking about him, but the consistent amount of times that he's the problem for them, really on both ends of the floor. But I'm just going to stick to offensively for a second. It doesn't fix it. If the core root of your recruiting effort and your NIL and your spending, let's just be honest, that's what he got the most money out of that group. If the core of that is that kind of culture player, it's all going to get worse. Again, Michael, I'm with you. Dockich, the whole thing, there's more there to that, right? Yeah. But he brings up ultimately a good point, and throughout how the culture, and I get the manifesto things are funny, but the point is if the root of what you're building is around Omar Ballo and trying to win games, it's a Mike Woodson problem. We've always said it's a Mike Woodson problem. I'm sure he's a great guy, but if you bring in Ballo, I mean, even in the transfer portal era, somebody brought this up the other day on a show, and not this show, but a show I was listening to, and it was a really good point. It was like, in the transfer portal era now is like your information on guys and their personalities is even more important because you don't have 3 years to recruit them. I'm sure some of these guys, like Coach Barris told us, like some of these guys, I'm sure he's recruited over and over again and got them because he talked to them 2 or 3 years ago, right? We talked about the Butler as an example, right? Guy he really loved for years. But like sometimes you just got to get the info and you got to go and you got to pay them and it's got to be quick, right? And we know that. We know how fast that portal period is after the Final Four. And so my point is if you're immediately giving that kind of guy that kind of pressure and money, it's you set yourself up for failure. Regardless of, I'm with the Indiana fans on the coaching thing. It is what it is, but you set yourself up for failure when you that is ultimately what you're building your core around.
Completely agree. I think those are very good and valid points. And gentlemen, Indiana, that's a historic place. I know recent success over the last couple decades has been hard to come by, right? But the fact that their student section loudly, not just a few people, loudly in Assembly Hall started the Fire Woodson chant because the play was so awful, I think that sends a loud and clear message. We kind of alluded to it like, hey, if they don't do this, he's probably gone. I think this all but seals his fate. Unless they magically turn it around somehow in these final month and a half, 2 months, I think Indiana is going to be on the coaching search come late March.
They probably need to win a game in the NCAA tournament if he wants to keep his job.
I mean, like, we can get into this in a few months, but like, is it Beard? Is it? Of course, it's not Dusty May anymore. We know that, right? Like, I've seen Indiana fans this week talking about Beard and the moral compass and stuff, but like, we're so far beyond that from how long ago that Texas thing was now. Like, love him or hate him, whatever he did, obviously. But we're so far away from moral compass. Indiana fans would do anything. They would commit felonious crimes to get this basketball team to win. We all know that. I'm not making light of the situation. I'm just calling it what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the same thing that's going on in North Carolina with Hubert Davis. To make the parallel, I haven't spoken on this publicly, but like, things are getting weird in Chapel Hill. And it's the same thing. There are fans that are going to say absolutely ridiculous stuff, and we know there's extremes to this. But like, it's reaching a point where like Indiana fans, like I've made this point before whenever I met you guys a few years ago. Indiana hasn't been good in my lifetime.
Yeah,
I'm closer to 30 than I am to 21. Okay, that's crazy.
You and Michael, I heard this on a radio show today talking about this. You and Michael, because you're younger than I am, grew up basically never knowing that Indiana has this great history unless you read a book or saw a video about it. Like me, I grew up and I knew about it. You guys, if you didn't know no better, all you know is Indiana is what they've been the last 20 years, which has not been very good. Problem after problem after problem.
I mean, the best Indiana team I can think of were Yogi Ferrell and Cody Zeller on the same team.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the best Indiana team in my memory, and I think they were like a 4 or 5 seed, and they played Kentucky.
No, so Yogi, that was Yogi's like senior year, but Yogi and Cody played with each other in 2013. They were the overall number 1 seed, won the Big Ten, got upset by Syracuse Sweet 16, but even still, lack of success.
The fact that the what I'm remembering is the biggest moment is a regular season buzzer beater against Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for Wofford or whatever his name was. Like, that's crazy. And by the way, I love Tom Crean. I wish he was still coaching. I think it'd be really fun. Obviously, we all know that he has a personality through and through. TV's been really good to him, but like, that's insanity. That the best moment I can remember in my lifetime with Indiana is a regular season buzzer beater. Now, don't get me wrong, watching it live, the atmosphere, the environment, like that was insane. Like that might be a top 5 or 3 crowd thing I've seen on TV ever. Like, it was just nuts. I can't remember if they stormed the court or not. I would assume they did.
Oh God,
as you guys, I'm pro court storm, as you guys. I'm pro court storm, as you guys know. But I mean, like, you should, right? You beat Kentucky was either 1 or 5. Number one. Yeah, so even better. My point is it sucks because we've always said this. Like, I made a joke in the chat earlier. It feels like every time I join, we're talking about X, Y, and Z team or whatever. But I mean that from a sincere place. You guys know that. We should talk about these teams because they're the best teams in college basketball. They're what fuels it. Of course, I'm going to drop in here randomly from an arena and be making jokes about the CAA. But we need to talk about Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina. We need to talk about Indiana. We need to talk about UCLA. UCLA needs to start feeling these same things. Regardless, this is before I was going to make this one before Mick said all of his things he said. But like UCLA is in a very similar place where you start to see blue blood debates, and you go, the history is the history. It is what it is. But I mean,
let me real quick, because I know we have to move off the Indiana thing, but I'm glad Johnny
Indiana fans want you to
commented.
move off of it too. Sure.
Well, Johnny, obviously, for those, long time, 40-year Indiana fan, and we were talking about this today, and he put in the chat here his wish list of kind of who they would want. For those who are listening,
I'm going to jump in immediately. You can take Shaka off that list. They're not hiring.
Shaka, Sean,
you can take
Shaka.
Shaka. Shaka's not leaving.
Wade Taylor, is he talking about
he put Wade Taylor on accident or auto corrected. I know he's talking about
Will Wade.
Will Wade, thank you. Yes. Yeah. Not Wade.
That would be interesting.
Will Wade. So we talked about this today. I don't know if Pearl comes. I think Pearl would be great. Obviously, Chris Beard, Bob Knight disciple would be great. But I like these two names that we brought up: Will Wade and Todd Golden. I don't know if Golden now leaves Florida because he's got it rolling. Maybe he does. But you get one of those guys, now I think you're in the right spot. But I think the point of the story or moral of this is Indiana's a mess. I don't think Woodson makes it past this year. I don't.
I have one. I have one weird one. Just one. I'm not saying this because I'm looking at him 30 feet away. I'm dead serious, right? He had an incredible run at Xavier, incredible run at Louisville. And we know some of the stuff that happened there as he left out. I think leaving the game was really good for him. I think it really gave him fresh perspective on things. This is no surprise to anyone, right? This Charleston team is no surprise to anyone. This success, if they make the tournament, the whole thing. But like, this is a guy that coached at Power 5 basketball. Indiana wants a guy that has coached there and been successful. I'm just telling you, from a resume standpoint, from a guy that can run a program and immediately change a program and a culture. I understand changing Charleston and changing, Indiana is two completely different things. But I'm just saying, like, if you want just a weird one off this list that Johnny said, I mean, he's on the list.
Look, I like the Chris Smack idea. I don't hate it. I like it because I know his resume. I don't hate it. So
he wins.
Look at where he did it at. Xavier, Louisville, right here next to Bloomington. It's all in the same area, so he knows this area well.
Two of the harder jobs in the country. Yeah, we know that.
So I love it. Indiana's got to get it figured out. Arkansas is another one of those teams you talked about earlier with Cincinnati. Like, it's a mess on some of these programs that had some of the biggest NIL. Arkansas, Indiana, Kansas State. Things are not going well for those three, and we'll keep an eye on all that. Let's turn our attention to this weekend. Got a couple big games I'd like to touch on here. Let's start with on Saturday. In the Big Ten, we'll take a short break from the SEC games because we do have a top 20 matchup in the Big Ten. Number 17, Purdue, goes on the road out west to number 14, Oregon. On Saturday evening, DeRosa, you've loved Oregon from the moment we wrote the magazine. You had them preseason pick, but you also said, too, that Purdue would probably be there. This is honestly probably your top two preseason teams in the magazine, top 20 matchup. Oregon, can they get a big home victory and keep pace with some of the other teams in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think Oregon's going to be able to score on this team. I think they'll find a way. I mean, I think they'll do enough to find ways to get buckets, whether it's on the offensive glass, drawing fouls, hitting outside shots, just getting someone going. Maybe Jackson Shellstead has a good game. Nate Biddle's been really good for them this season. It's really good to see him playing well. TJ Bamba, I think, can move around some of the smaller Purdue guards. I think it comes down to Oregon's defense. Can Oregon stop this, excellent Purdue offense? Purdue they put points on the board. It's really tough to guard Braden Smith, who's playing at such a high level, highest assist rate in the country. He's just been absolutely excellent. You have good pieces around him, Trickoff and Wren, because the difference between Biddle and Supreme Cook defensively is huge. Cook cannot check Trickoff and Wren. That is barbecue chicken all day. So they're going to need Nate Biddle to play a lot, and they're going to need to send some help there. Fletcher Lawyer, what's he going to be able to add to this team? But you know it. I'm an Oregon guy. I've been an Oregon guy all season. I can't pick against them in this spot. I still think they can win this league. So I'm going to take Oregon. Go Ducks, baby. Quack, quack, quack.
So Oregon, look at conference rating or conference efficiencies only here. Oregon ranks 14th in the conference in defensive efficiency and really struggle in a lot of key areas. They are only above Iowa in defending 3-point shots in the Big Ten right now. They're giving up 43% to opposing teams in conference play from the 3-point line. And we know something that Purdue does well. They're actually second in the conference right now at 38.3%. They can shoot the three well with Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, some of those guys like that. So I think defending the 3-point line and getting to the foul line, they have to put Purdue under stress right away, because obviously if you get Braden Smith out the game with foul trouble, it is much easier to take down Purdue. If you frustrate Trey Kaufman-Renn inside, Purdue's depth on the interior right now is not great. So I think getting to the foul line and limiting 3-point opportunities for Purdue are the keys to victory for Oregon. That's a weird place to go with the weird, unique floor. Purdue has to go out west, cannot be undersold with that trip out there. Purdue's been on a heater. I'm with you, though. I go Duck in a big-time win to get back in the title race, because right now they are 4-2 in the league. Purdue is 6-1, only a half game behind Michigan State and Michigan, who are both undefeated right now. So interesting matchup. Trevor, I don't know if you can hear us, but Oregon, Purdue, who you got on Saturday?
Oregon's physicality, I think, is what ultimately probably decides the game. I think that's their kind of calling card to me, is when they've been impressive, they've been the more physical team. I think that's just kind of the calling card I've continued to fall back on. You mentioned the road for Purdue. Purdue went out west on Thanksgiving and I think they beat NC State, of course, unfortunately, on Thanksgiving Day. I believe they beat Ole Miss. If not, they beat BYU. One of those. They went out of that undefeated. Going west is no problem for them. Clearly, they can do that, and they can do that Thanksgiving week. They can do that now. Conference play, I understand Oregon, a little bit different environment, but I believe in Purdue. I've also, out of the three of us, I'm probably the lowest coming into the season on them. I've very easily eaten crow, and I'll take the best player in the game, and we can argue that if you'd like, but I'll take the best player in the game right now, lately, and that's Braden Smith. So I'll take Purdue in a close game.
Look, I don't think it's easy going against Purdue just on their history. So I like the pick. Oregon at home. We'll see. You're probably
they have
right.
to muck it up. Oregon has to muck it up. They have to do that.
It's a coin flip game.
Completely agree. Let's SEC noon. It'll kick things off on Saturday in Riverside Rupp Arena. Number 4 Alabama, coming off the loss to Ole Miss on Tuesday night, goes to Rupp Arena to play number 8 Kentucky, who's coming off back-to-back wins. This should be kind of like Florida. This should be on paper a high-scoring affair. A lot of points up and down. You talk about two of the higher tempo teams, not only in the conference, but in the country. I'd imagine a lot of 3-point shots go up. Michael, when you look at this game, who wins, why, kind of some of your keys to this game. It should be, on paper, another classic game, though.
Yeah, I think this game is a complete toss-up. I think, in just the way, obviously home court obviously matters, but just in the way both Alabama and Kentucky play with how much they shoot the three, I think it kind of takes away some of the home court advantage, just because 3-point shooting is so much variance based. It's just like some days you're on, some days you're not. That's just kind of basketball. I just kind of think it takes away that both Alabama Kentucky games to me just feel very 50-50, just based on how these teams play. I think Lamont Butler is going to cause Mark Sears serious problems, which is why I'm going to end up picking Kentucky. I just think if you can cut the offense off at the head, which I think Lamont Butler will be able to, then what can Alabama do? Who are some of these secondary guys for Alabama that can get going? Do they have those guys? It's been Aiden Holloway a lot this year. You're going to need a really good game out of Aiden Holloway if they're going to come away, and he's been great. Laverion Philon, too, has been really good for these guards.
Awesome this year.
But I'm going to take Kentucky. I think the way that him and then Owe, you can put two of those guys on two of those guards, kind of limit them a little bit, and I think Kentucky will find some offense. I think like Jackson Robinson can get going. Not too confident, but give me Kentucky. Give me Kentucky by 7. Give me Kentucky by 7.
I'm at this weird impasse because, as you guys know, I have two things that I heavily rely on when I make game picks: is the team with more momentum. That right now, that's Kentucky, and of course, the StreamYard agrees with that. and then the team that comes off a loss with a coach, I believe. Even though, look, sometimes Nate Oates can just say some outlandish things and do some outlandish things, right? I have my opinions, but I'll take a guy that I know for a fact can make guys respond. That's the issue. Is I'm torn. Both of those factors, I think, are what swings games like this.
Yeah.
And we have both of those examples. The lazy thing to do would be to take the home team. Alabama's a national championship contender coming into the year for a reason, and I just think it's going to be that close. And if they're shooting friendly rims, like I said, like we've talked about many times on the show this year, it goes for both teams. It isn't always just, okay, the home team knows the rims more, but Alabama and Nate Oates and that team have played in that building before. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be a coin toss. The issue for me is it's hard to doubt Kentucky, right? Like Josh texted me one time a couple weeks ago. I put him at 2, and he was like, I might shed a tear or whatever. And I was like, no, because I really do believe in this team, and I really do think that they can win these games in this really tough conference schedule. The problem is, I think Alabama knows how to respond to games. I think they learned from that themselves last year in that regard, as they obviously eventually learned how to win games in the tournament and get to the Final Four. And that's what, as much as I believe it's just like a lock for lock game. I think honestly, it should be a pick 'em. I maybe give up 3 points. Sure, you get my point. But I'm going to go with Alabama, but I don't feel great about it.
Let's talk about real quick how identical in a way these two teams are in conference play, especially. Alabama number 1 in tempo, Kentucky number 2 in tempo. You go down to offensive rebound percentage. Neither one, where was it? Turnover percentage on the defensive end is what I meant to say. Alabama 15th in the conference, Kentucky 13th. Neither team forced a high amount of turnovers. 3-point shooting, Kentucky's number 2 behind Auburn. They're shooting 39.8%. Alabama 33.3%. Both take about the same amount, like volume-wise. Kentucky's been making more. Alabama's not, but Alabama, we know how good they can be if they get the shots falling. You talked about softer rims. They absolutely can work in their favor. I expect a high explosive. Honestly, I expect a game like we saw 2 weeks ago with Florida. A high offensive type game, high tempo, a lot of points being scored. Whoever can get the most kills. It may come down to if one team gets 2 kills throughout the course of a game, that's who's going to win the game. I think Kentucky has enough at home. I think this should be an incredible game, but will not be shocked if Alabama wins and maybe even wins comfortably. I don't know. I think this is a true definition of a toss-up, but it should be, on paper, a highly entertaining contest. We'll see if Alabama bounces back. Would not be surprised, but I'm going the Cats at home. Let's talk about real quick, excuse me, number 1 Auburn, on the road at number 23 Georgia. We just talked and waxed poetic about Auburn. Tied at top of the conference, no Janai Broom. Going to a tough place, so we know here lately, Georgia, at home, they've got big top 25 wins already, but Auburn is a different animal coming into Stegman Coliseum there, Michael. Can Georgia pull off another home court upset over the number 1 ranked team, or does this train of the Auburn Tigers continue to roll right through Athens?
I don't think this is a matchup where Auburn's going to struggle without Broom again. I think this is another matchup where they match up pretty well. Smaller guards, team that doesn't Georgia doesn't have that one factor that really wows you. They're good on the offensive glass. They're good at, they're obviously very good at some of these other things. Like they beat 2 top 25 teams. They're really good on the offensive glass. They draw fouls. But again, I don't think this is a team that's going to punch them the way I think some of the tougher matchups for Auburn will be, like a Tennessee or an Ole Miss, with how good their defense is, just not having that safety valve that is Janai Broom. I don't think this Georgia team is one of the teams that I think presents them a real challenge without Broom. So give me the Tigers. They roll on again.
Yeah. It's Trevor. Oh, he's not with us. So I'll say this. I agree Auburn probably wins this game. But if there's one factor that allows Georgia to win, that will, let's say Broom is missed in this game, it'll be because they don't have anybody guard Asa Newell. We know how good this kid is. And I'm just a vision of him pulling like Dylan Cardwell away from the rim and opening stuff up, and Cardwell can't really guard on the perimeter like that. If Georgia wins this game, it's because Asa Newell has one of these like electric 24 and 13 type performances. I think that's the key. If they were to win, Asa Newell goes nuts, but I'm going Auburn as well. Just real quick, a prediction. Number 18, Ole Miss at number 13, Mississippi State. The Egg Bowl on the basketball hardwood. 2 really good teams. Mississippi State's lost 2 in a row. Ole Miss undefeated. We've talked a lot about them. Does Mississippi State finally get back in the win column? It's a rivalry game, so that place should be nuts. It's already a hard venue to go try to get a win in. Who do you favor, Ole Miss and their defense, or Mississippi State and Josh Hubbard?
I think one thing Mississippi State does really well is they don't turn the ball over a ton. I think I don't know how many offensive rebounds they're going to get, but I think Mississippi State has enough like gunners to hit some tough shots. I'm going to take Mississippi State in this spot. I think it's a perfect sell high on Ole Miss, buy low Mississippi State, just based on the last performance. People are looking at them being like, oh man, they lost to Auburn by 20 without Janai Broom. This team blows. When in reality, they've been really damn good this season, and I think that remains true. Give me the Bulldogs at home.
I'm going with you, Mississippi State. And then a Sunday game that'll be on as we come on air. It will probably be at halftime by the time we come on air. Number 19, Illinois at number 12, Michigan State. This is for the battle at the top of the conference between two of the best teams in the league. Illinois' offense, we know how good. Michigan State has been quietly really steady, tough, and physical. Can Izzo's team get a win here and probably vault inside the top 10 next week's poll?
Yeah, these were the two teams in the Big Ten I was most wrong about coming into the season. Michigan State was the team I just had fourth just because I didn't really know where to put them. Just like fourth was like, yeah, I could see how it goes really well. I could see how it not. And in the beginning of the season, I was leaning towards not, and that was wrong. Michigan State isn't a very good three-point shooting team, but they're kind of good at almost every other area of the game. And I just think at home, this is going to be a very competitive game. I'm not confident in this pick whatsoever, but give me Michigan State. I think they've looked like the best team in the country. They move the ball really well, and I think that'll be a huge difference maker. They can get multiple guys that can beat you.
I assume you mean conference, not country.
Yes, correct.
Sparty is number one in offense and defense in the conference right now, according to the metrics. They're shooting better from three. It's better than what they were in the non-con. They're up to 34.8% in conference games, but number one offensive rebounding team in the conference right now. Number one free throw percentage. They're shooting 84%. They basically don't miss from the foul line. Number one in defense. Number one in effective field goal defense percentage. Number one in 3-point. Teams are only shooting 26.8% against them in the league play right now, and their block rate is nuts. 15.7% of possessions with a block. Number one in the league. Give me the team who's number one in both stats. Even though I love Illinois' offense, give me Michigan State at home. I like how Sparty's playing right now.
Yeah, I'll be short and sweet. Offensive rebound percentage, you just said it. You generate that many extra points, like Texas A&M. You generate that many extra points, you're going to put yourself in a position to win these kind of games. I think they have the advantage in the front court anyway. And then the free throws, if they get to the free throw line that many times, I mean, good grief. You count extra. Let's just say 18 more points in this example. Like, that's 18 more points than Illinois might have. So I'll take Michigan State.
All right, let's start rounding things out here. We'll go to bank on it. Trevor, since you're on the road right now, if you've got a bank on it, go ahead and let it out there.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have anything in front of me, so I'll just take the one weirdo one in front of me. I think let's say Campbell wins the game tonight against Charleston. Big upset in the CAA. Again, I literally have no notes in front of me. I have to sit down and break just some more stuff down. But look, the CAA, anybody can win any night. I'm like a walking spokesperson for this conference at this point for this podcast. But at the end of the day, as you guys know, it's one of the best conferences in college basketball. I'm not just saying that because I cover it. I'm saying that because literally two of the top three teams, I just said that to someone in the hallway literally 30 seconds ago. Two of the top three teams are never made the tournament club teams in Elon and William and Mary. I'll go ahead and give you my shout out because I don't have much more time. But my shout out, I gave a William and Mary shout out last week or on Sunday because they're undefeated in conference play and they're an incredible team. I'll give you a shout out to Elon because they're an incredible team as well. Of course, Charleston, as we know, I'm going to see tonight, they're going to probably win the league and everyone's going to not be surprised. But Elon and William and Mary, I mentioned them before. Elon's an incredible team. They're one of the tallest teams in the country, if I not believe the tallest team in the country, with Sam Sherry and Van Komen. They can play inside, they can play outside. They beat Notre Dame early in the year. People obviously know that. They can beat anybody in this league, and they can right now they're just unbeatable. Obviously, they only lost to them as William and Mary at William and Mary. So that should tell you everything you know about Elon right now. So shout out to the Phoenix, shout out to West Durham, shout out to the community in Elon. They're really, really excited about their Phoenix.
I love it. Michael, do you have the bank on it for this weekend?
Yeah, looking at the slate, nothing like sticks out to me as a huge bank on it game. So I'm actually going to go to the Friday slate of college basketball. I think it's actually like a pretty underrated Friday slate, especially with some of the mid-major teams that are playing. VCU goes at St. Joe's. That could be a really good game. Iowa goes to UCLA, two Big East games that are pretty okay. Indiana plays, but I'm going to the nightcap, 11 p.m.